Hello everyone, thank you for being here again. I want to share with you another argument that shows that the existence of a mind without a body. So, the first question to ask is, did the universe begin to exist? I want to share with you a philosophical argument that shows that the universe did in fact begin to exist. There are two philosophical arguments, but I will share one of these two philosophical arguments. So the first one says that it is impossible for an actual infinite number of things to exist. What it means is that a number of things must be finite. It is impossible that in reality there is something that has an infinite number of things, a real infinite number of things. It is impossible that something in reality has an infinite number of things. And the second argument says that even if in reality there exists an infinite number of things, this thing will not be formed, cannot be formed by adding one thing after another. Even if in reality there exists something that has an actual infinite number of things, that thing cannot be formed by adding one thing after another in succession. So I will share with you the first philosophical argument, why it's impossible that in reality there exists an infinite number of things. So this is the argument. We will see each one of the steps of the argument. So the argument in basic, it is saying that in the first premise says that if an actual infinite number of things exists, then some things could happen. And here are three examples. These three things could happen. And the second premise is saying that those things could not happen. So those things cannot happen. So from these two premises, we have to conclude that therefore an actual infinite number of things cannot exist. So to give an example of how the logic of the argument, we can think about this argument. So the first premise is saying if something contradictory can exist, then these things could happen. There can exist square circles, there can exist colorless red objects, and there can exist a carnivorous herbivore animal. So if something contradictory can exist, these things can happen. Because we are saying that something contradictory can exist, so there can exist square circles, colorless red objects, and carnivorous herbivore animal. And the second premise is saying no, but those things cannot exist, and the square circle cannot exist. So we have to conclude that therefore something contradictory cannot exist, because these things follow from saying that something contradictory can exist. But if these things cannot exist, so something contradictory cannot exist also. So that's the logic behind the argument. So we will see the first premise that is saying that if an actual infinite number of things, then these things could happen. And we will see the first example. The first example is saying that you will be able to feel something that is half empty, but without adding anything new on it. So if an actual infinite number of things can exist, you will be able to feel something that is half empty without adding anything new. We will see an example. So let's take, for example, a finite bookshelf. So here you have a bookshelf with 20 books. So the number of books in this bookshelf is finite. So let's say we remove the books that are in the odd position. So we remove 10 books. how many books are left? Are left 10 books also. So this bookshelf is half empty. If I want to fill it again, I will have to take a book from outside and put it inside. So I will take a book and put it in the position 1. I will take a second book from outside and put it in the position 3, and so on. In that way, I will fill again the bookshelf. The important thing here is to know that because it's a finite bookshelf, I need to take from outside books to fill it again because it was half empty. But what happens if we say that this bookshelf is infinite? So now let's take the books again that are in the odd position. So the bookshelf is again half empty. And let's say that I want to fill again the bookshelf. But in this case, because it's an infinite bookshelf, I don't need to take a book from outside to put it inside. I just can move the position of the books. So I move the book that is in the position number 2 to the position number 1. And move the book that is in the position number 4 to number 2. The book in number 6 to number 3. 8 to number 4. And so on. And I can do it all simultaneously to save time, let's say. So as you can see, the bookshelf is again full, and I didn't need to take any book from outside to fill it again. So if an actual infinite number of things exists, then I can fill something that is half empty without adding anything new. We have seen that that is the case. Let's see the second example. The second example is saying that I will be able to add any amount of things to something that is already full without needing to subtract anything from it. So let's take again the example of a finite bookshelf. So we have this bookshelf is full, it has 20 books, there's no book can fit there without removing one of those that are already there. So if I want to put a new book in the bookshelf, I will need to remove one of the books there to be able to do it. So for example, I remove the book that is in position number 1, and in doing that will allow me to put a new book in that position. Because the book is finite, I have to do that. But what happens if the bookshelf is infinite? So again, we have the bookshelf and it has an infinite number of books. So the bookshelf is full. What if I want to add a new book to this bookshelf? Well, in this case, I don't need to subtract any of the books that are there. I just need to change them of position. So I move the book that is in position number 1 to the position number 2. The book that was in position number 2 to the position number 3. The book that was in the 3 to the 4, and so on. And again, I can do it all simultaneously so I can save time. And I can put again the book inside the bookshelf. But I didn't need to remove any of the books that were already there. Moreover, this can happen multiple times. Let's say that I just don't want to put one new book to the bookshelf, infinite bookshelf. I want to put an infinite number of books to the infinite bookshelf. There is no problem. Even the bookshelf is full, I can still put an infinite number of books in there without removing any of the books that are there. How can I do it? So I will move the positions of the books to that position that is the double of its position. So because any number multiplied by 2 will give you an even number, so all the books will will fall in the position even, and the positions that are odd will be empty. So 1 times 2 will give me 2, so I move the position number 1 to the position number 2. 2 times 2 give me 4, so I move the book that was in the number 2 to the position number 4. 3 times 2 will give me 6, so I move the book that is in position number 3 to the position number 6, and so on. And again, I can do all these simultaneously, and I am left with all the odd positions empty. So how many positions empty I have? Infinite. How many books I want to put in the bookshelf? Infinite. So now I just put the infinite books in the bookshelf, and I didn't need to remove any of the books that were already there. And I can do this infinite number of times without removing any of the books that are in the full bookshelf. So we have seen that if an actual infinite number of things exists, then I will be able to add any amount of things to something that is already full without needing to remove anything from it. Let's see that third example. The third example is saying that I will be able to remove the same amount of things twice from the same amount of things and obtain different results. So let's take again the example of a finite bookshelf. So I have here 20 books. So what if I remove all the books that are in the even positions? I have removed 10 books. So I have 20 books, initial 20 books, then I remove 10 books. How many books are left? Well, there are left 10 books, all the books that are in the even position. What if I do again? I have 20 books initially. Now I want to remove all the books that are over the position, about the position 10. So how many books I remove this time? Again, I remove 10 books. So I have 20 books initially minus the same amount of books removed, 10 books. What is the result? It's identical operation. What is the result? Will give me 10 also. Identical results. But what happens if the bookshelf is infinite? So here we have an infinite number of books. Now I will remove all the books that are in the even position. So how many books I have removed? I have removed infinite number of books also. And how many books are left? Well, all the books that are in the odd position, and that is infinite number of books in the odd position. So infinite minus infinite, it gives me infinite. So what if I do this again? I have infinite again initially. Then I want to remove all the books that are above the number 4. How many books I have removed? Again, infinite. So you can see I am subtracting the same quantity from the same quantity. But in this case, how many books are left? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 books. But even though I am subtracting the same quantity from the same quantity, the results are not identical. So we have seen that if an actual infinite number of things exists, then I will be able to remove the same amount of things twice from the same amount of things and obtain different results. So we have seen that this first premise is true. But then the important question is the second premise. Could those things can happen? Can I fill something that is half empty without adding anything new? Can I add any amount of things on something that is already full without needing to subtract anything from it? Can I remove the same amount of things from the same amount of things and obtain different results? So I think that that is not reasonable. So those things could not happen. So if those things could not happen, therefore, number 3, an actually infinite number of things cannot exist. So we have seen the philosophical argument that shows that the universe have a beginning, and in what sense, how can we apply it for the universe? So the universe have the past of the universe has a number. We are here in today, but there are many events that have passed before today. So that number of past events, this philosophical argument is saying that number of past events could not be infinite, because in reality there cannot exist something that it is infinite. The infinite notion, the infinite is just an idea in the mind. The infinite does not exist in reality. So the number of past events should be a finite number. Let's say 10 years, 20 years. It should be a finite number, but it cannot be an infinite number, because infinite in reality cannot exist. So that means that we cannot go back in time infinitely. We have to arrive to the foundation of everything. Before that foundation, we cannot go before that, because we cannot go on infinitely. We have to stop at one point at the foundation of everything. So did the universe begin to exist? Yes. Now, why the cause of the universe is a mind without a body? We have seen that the universe began to exist, but everything that begins to exist must have a cause. So why the cause of the universe should be a mind that does not have a body? So first, why should the cause not have a body? Well, we are saying that the universe, it is matter. But if we say that the universe began to exist, we are saying that matter began to exist. And the existence of matter cannot be caused by matter. So the cause of matter should not have matter. So therefore should not have a body, should be immaterial. And why should the cause be a mind? Why should this immaterial cause be a mind? So the reason is because to cause the beginning of the universe, you need free will. And we attribute free will just to minds. So what is free will? Free will is the ability to do something that does not follow necessarily from a previous cause. So to see an example, let's say we see a light bulb in a room and it's turned on, it has light. So this is the effect. What can be the cause? The cause is that the light switch is turned on, so it allows the electricity to go to the light bulb. But this switch turned on is a cause, but this cause does not have free will. The switch cannot decide if pass or not the electricity to the light bulb. The switch cannot decide that. The switch, if it's turned on, it will necessarily pass electricity to the light bulb. It is not an option. It doesn't have a decision. It must necessarily pass the electricity to the light bulb. But when we talk about free will, we are talking like the man. who turned on the light. So the man decided to turn on the switch, and the man has free will. The man could decide if he wants to turn it on or not. It is not necessarily like a machine that has to turn it on. No, it has free will to decide if to turn it on or not. So the switch is a cause without free will. If it is turned on, it will have to pass the electricity to the light bulb. It cannot decide. The switch cannot decide. It doesn't have a decision. But the man has free will because it has a mind. So it can decide. It can decide to turn it on or not. So let's see the example about the universe. So we have two types of causes for the beginning of the universe. The first one will be a cause with free will. That's the first option. And the second one is a cause without free will. So let's see first what will happen if the cause doesn't have free will. So to give the example, let's imagine we have a refrigerator, and in the refrigerator we have a glass of water, and the temperature on the refrigerator is below 0 degrees Celsius. So this is the cause. These conditions are the cause. What happens to the water when these conditions are met? So the effect will happen, that is, the water will turn ice. So if 10 minutes ago the cause was there, then the water will become ice 10 minutes ago, like 10 minutes ago. Why? Because the cause, the temperature, doesn't have decision. It cannot say, it cannot decide to turn to convert the water or not into ice. It will convert it into ice if the temperature is below 0 degrees. It doesn't have decision. It cannot decide. What about if we say that this cause was always there? The water was always there. The temperature was always below 0 degrees Celsius. So what will happen to the effect? So we will have to say that the effect will also be always there, meaning that the water will always be turned into ice. If you were to open the refrigerator at any time, you will find the water turned into ice. Why? Because the cause was always there, and the cause cannot decide. It will turn the water into ice. It cannot decide to turn it into ice. What if I tell you that the cause was always there, but the water 90 minutes ago was not turned into ice, and then 10 minutes ago the water began to freeze? You will say, no, that's not possible. The water cannot change from one state to another. So if the cause, for example, was 0 degrees Celsius, because it cannot decide the cause, it doesn't have free will, the water will always be not frozen, will be in a liquid state. Or if the cause was always below 0 degrees Celsius, because it cannot decide, the water will always be frozen, will be in solid state. It cannot make a change from not frozen to frozen if the cause was always there. Now, about the universe, we are saying that the cause of the universe is the foundation. You cannot go more before that. You cannot have an infinite number of causes. So the cause of the universe is the foundation, was always there. But then we are saying that the universe began to exist. There was a time that the universe did not exist, and then there was a time that the universe began to exist. 13.8 billion years ago. So if we say that this cause of the universe is a cause without free will, what we should expect instead is that because it cannot decide, the cause was always there, all the necessary and sufficient conditions to produce or not the universe was always there. So if that is the case, because it cannot decide, or the universe will never exist, or the universe will always have existed. Because the cause without free will cannot decide to make a change. But if we say that the cause has free will, we can say that the cause was always there, but the universe was not there because the cause have not decided yet to create the universe. So the universe, that's why was not there, even though the cause was always there. Because even though was the cause there, it was not sufficient because it was needed the decision of the cause to create the universe. So the universe did not exist because the cause having not decided yet to create it, and at some point decided to create it, and the universe began to exist 13.8 billion years ago. So you need free will to make this change, this decision, this creation of the universe from a cause that was always there. Because if you don't have free will, or the universe will never have existed, or will always have existed, but will never begin to exist. So we have seen two explanations. So we have seen that cause without free will not be able to produce the beginning of the universe, but a mind with free will can do it. So what is the cause of the beginning of the universe? It is a mind without a body. If you want to know more about this argument, you can see Dr. William Lane Craig and his work on the Kalam cosmological argument. That is this argument that I have presented to you. I hope you have liked the presentation.